C++, first main program. I want to step you through a sample program which is going to follow the same pattern what you're going to do for your homework assignments. Okay, so now the first thing I want you to write at the top of your programs up here are three things. So let's just point those out here. You're going to have the name. So here we have I'm a coder. We're going to have our name of our project and a date. And you'll notice right here, here and here, okay, these are our syntax for a comment. So this is a multi-line comment going on here. So a multi-line comment. We've got going on. Okay, so we've got a multi-line comment going on right there. Now, if we work further down into our program here, we're going to go ahead here and look at this portion of our code right here. So this is where we're going to load our libraries, and we designate that with a pound sign and the keyword include, followed by our library that we're loading, and all our libraries are going to have these guys. Okay, so this is a preprocessor directive to the compiler. We're going to use the include statement, and then we're going to include the library here. So we're actually including three. We've got the one here for the standard library, which is this guy right here. We have our IO stream, and we're using this because we're going to get input from the console, because we're going to write a simple console app here. Okay, so this is the library that's going to allow us to input and receive information from the keyboard. Finally, we're going to include the string library. So what this is going to do here is allow us to input like a person's name. So a string data type. If we move a little farther down, we're going to designate that we're using the standard namespace. Okay, so we have to include this. So we're going to use using namespace standard. And notice that this ends in a semicolon. There are no semicolons up here, so be aware of that. Now we're getting into our main program. Let me zoom out here for a sec. I want to point something out here. Here's our main, and we have a curly brace right there. So I'm going to zoom out just a bit. Okay, so when we write our first few programs here, we're going to write our programs top down. Okay, and they're all going to be in main. Okay, so you're not going to separate these out. You're going to put them all in one program. Okay, all of it going to be here, right here. So between starting at main, all the way down and before return. Okay, we're going to work our problems top down. And this is sequential programming. So that's where we're going to put all our code. Now, let me go ahead and zoom in here. And let's talk about our next section of code. And that next section of code is where we're going to declare some variables. Okay, so we're going to put our variables in this section right here. Now, I want you to pay attention to a couple things here. First off, what I've done here is I've labeled here with a single line comment, okay, what this part of our code is doing. So we're declaring variables up in here. Now the second thing I want to point out to you here is this. We're going to declare 5 variables. And what I've done here is sort of group these. So one part of our program up here, okay, we're going to be asking for a name. And so we've got this sort of like greeting going on. So this variable sort of pertains to its own little section of code. Okay, so I've put some white space in here. And then I've separated it here with another set of white space. Okay, so here's our next little set of variables that go together, followed by quit. And usually what I do, if I've gotten to a practice set, if I'm using a memory variable, I'll usually start my variables either with an M or with an X. Why would I do that? Because in some IDEs, like NetBeans or Visual Studio on that, if I put an M or an X together, they will pop up those variables in a pop-up screen. So we'll have a little pop-up screen that'll pop up on that. And if I put an M or an X on there, guess what? It's going to group all my variables together versus having them spread out between all the commands. So this is a little coding technique I use in my own personal coding projects. Okay, so now let's work our way down a little farther here into the program. So the first part of our program here, we're going to do a greeting. Okay, so first off, what we're going to do is present the user in the console with a message that says please enter your name. Okay, now look here, I'm using here an escape character right here, the /n. Okay, so it's going to then drop the cursor down to the next line. Okay, now if I don't want to use a /n, okay, C++ allows us to do an end line. Okay, so both of these do the very same thing. One is an escape character. This is the escape character. Okay, end line will also do the very same thing. So, how do we present something out to the user? We're going to use cout. Okay, it stands for console out. So we're going to present a message out to the user. And look here, this is our stream operators right here, the double arrows. Okay, so we're going to do this double arrow cout. So we're going to shoot this message out to the console. Okay, now the cursor is then going to be sitting down here, and it's going to be waiting for some input. Name. Okay, so what we're going to do is the console then is going to input. Okay, it's going to take some data and put it into the variable. Okay, so look at the direction of the arrows right here. So cn is pushing that data into our variables. And that's how I like to keep my arrows straight. If I'm going to give a message out to the user, it's cout. And if I need to get information into a variable, it's going to be cin to that variable. Okay, and then what I'm going to do then is just repeat that back to our user. Okay, so we have cout, hello, and then I'm going to give the user's name right back to them here, personalizing the program a little bit right here. So this is going to go out to the user. Okay, so now we're going to do a simple earnings calculator. So I'm simply going to do this here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to present a message to the user. Please enter your salary. I'm going to have the cursor drop to the next line. Okay, and then the cursor is going to be waiting for input. So it's going to be expecting a number. Okay, and we declared salary as a double, so it's going to be expecting a number. So I get to input a number. If I'm a really good coder, there's my salary. Okay, so it's going to be expecting a number. Once it gets that number, then it's going to read that in and put that into our variable. Then the next thing it's going to do is then present our user with the number of months. So once I enter a number in there, we're going to get the months. And now we're going to do our calculation. So here's our calculation. So here was our total. Okay, that's going to be equal to the salary times the months. Now, let me back up here for just a sec here, and I want to point something out to you. Look what we did here. These are all doubles, okay? Because I can have a decimal point in my salary, okay? I can make, 2250. Okay, so I can have a decimal point in my salary. Because I have that decimal point in here, I need a data type that's going to be able to take that, so I can have double. So the standard practice is this. You want to keep your data types all the same, okay? Because if we start mixing integer math with real math, okay, If we put integers in it with it, it can round really funny and give you strange results. So for most calculations on this, okay, keep your data types the same. Even though months are whole, okay, you still want to treat it as a double. So let's go down and look at the work. So right here is where we're going to do our calculation. So we have salary times the months, and it's going to store that value into total. And then we're going to come right back out, present to the user, see out. We're going to present the answer just like that. Okay, and then with the total. One little technique you should look at is pay attention to spaces, because anything that's in the quotes, okay, is going to be presented exactly to the user that way. So you'll notice right here, I have a space, and then we're going to run our total right into here. So that way, that'll give us the space between our comment and our total. Now let's look at this last little part here. Okay, I have C out, enter any key to exit, and then we're going to do a C in for quit. Now the reason why we need this is this: our program's running top down. Okay, so as soon as it hits this, okay, in our console, it'll display it, and if I don't have this chunk of code right here, it will immediately go to the end, and the return says I'm at the end, okay, and return 0 says I'm at the end, I had no errors, okay, so I'm going to return 0, okay, return is, here's where I exit. So if I go straight from here, okay, and I don't have this in here, it'll immediately hit the exit and it goes out. Okay, so if we got a really fast computer, that's going to flash by real quick. So we need some way to pause that screen so they can read their answer. And that is what we're doing with this little chunk of code right here. We're pausing the screen so they can see the answer. And at that point then on there, once they enter a letter and hit enter, then it pops to here and it exits. Now, this is how your basic problems are going to start on here. It's a simple way, and I want to point a few things out here real quick. Notice how I have comments. I've got a comment here telling us what we're doing. I have it here. Okay, it's telling us what we're doing. I also have, so this was the comment we saw here before. Here's our program greeting. Here's our variables, okay? So it's real important to document and comment your code, okay? So if I don't see that in your programs, I'm going to take off points for that. So this ends our first little sample program here for C++.